My mom saved $50 every single week for 26 years. Not for retirement, not for emergencies, not for my college, my wedding, or a house. At least, that's what I thought. Until I sat in a lawyer's office after her funeral and found out my broke mom, the woman who always said we can't afford that, had quietly turned those $50 bills into something I never earned, and something I wasn't sure I even deserved. If you've ever looked at your parents and thought, why didn't you help me more? Or why did I have to struggle so much? This story might hurt a little, but it might also change how you see all of it. Before I tell you how my mom built a whole secret life with money while I was drowning in student loans, hit subscribe so you don't miss stories like this, because this one changed how I see money, family, and love forever. I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment over a nail salon in a town nobody brags about visiting. Our fridge hummed too loud at night, the kind of old off-white one that always sounded like it was about to quit but never did. One burner on the stove was dead. The living room carpet had a brown stain that was already there when we moved in. My mom just threw a thrift store rug over it and called it vintage. We didn't have much of anything, but we had this one ritual. Every Friday night, my mom came home from her shift at the diner, smelling like fryer oil and burnt coffee, dropped her keys into the chipped bowl by the door, kicked off her shoes with that tired little sigh, and then sat at our tiny kitchen table with her wallet and an old white envelope. The envelope was soft from being handled 1,000 times. On the front, in her small, neat handwriting, it said, "For later." She'd count out $50 in cash. Sometimes it was a 50, sometimes it was two 20s and a 10, sometimes it was a crumpled mess of small bills. But every week, no matter what, it added up to 50. Then she'd slide the money into that envelope, press it flat, seal it, and tuck it away. I was 8 the first time I finally asked, "Mom, what's later?" She smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later is later, baby. Grown-up stuff. Is it for rent? I asked. For groceries? For bills? She shook her head. No, rent is separate. This is something I'm building. Building? I pictured boards and nails and a treehouse somewhere. I didn't know you could build anything with money except stress. Back then, all I saw was what we didn't have. We didn't have brand name cereal, just the big plastic bags from the bottom shelf. We didn't have vacations, just a day at the lake if the car didn't overheat. We didn't have new clothes, we had new-to-us clothes that smelled like other people's laundry detergent. But that envelope never missed a week. One winter, the heater broke and stayed broken. For 3 nights, we slept in the living room wearing coats, the oven door open to push out a little warmth, candles flickering on the table like we were camping indoors. I heard Mom on the phone with the landlord, her voice trying to sound tough and not desperate. "The heater is out again, Ron. I have a kid here. I don't have $500 just lying around." That Friday, the apartment was still freezing, and I watched her put $50 into the envelope anyway. My arms were folded, my teeth chattering. "Why don't you use that money to fix the heater?" I asked. "We're freezing, Mom." She looked at me for a long time, like she was digging for the right version of the truth. "Because this money is the only thing standing between us and staying here forever," she said quietly. "This money isn't for right now. It's for making sure your life is bigger than this apartment." I was a kid. All I heard was, "I will save money instead of making you comfortable." That night, I lay awake under 2 blankets, listening to the fridge hum and the wind rattle the windows, and I decided I hated that envelope. I started paying attention after that. Fridays weren't just about $50. Sometimes there were bank statements on the table next to the envelope. I'd see words when they slid out of the mail. Investment property, escrow, mortgage. None of it made sense. We didn't own anything. We rented. We were the people who called the landlord, not the people the landlord called. Or at least, that's what I thought. One night when I was around 12, I pretended to be asleep on the couch while my mom sat under the dim kitchen light. She had a calculator, a cheap spiral notebook, and that envelope. She was scribbling numbers, muttering to herself. "Okay, 50 a week, that's 200 a month, plus overtime. If nothing breaks this year, maybe in 3 years I can swing the down payment. Just hold on, just hold on. Down payment? I didn't know what that meant. I just knew whatever she was holding on to. It felt like it wasn't me. There's this thing that happens when you grow up poor in America. You get really good at reading adults' faces. Their mouths say, "We're fine." Their eyes say, "We're one bill away from disaster." I watched my mom's face all the time. At the grocery store checkout, at the mailbox when she opened bills, at the gas pump as the total climbed. She always looked like she was doing math in her head, cutting, shifting, sacrificing. But that $50, that was never up for debate. That year, my school announced a big trip to Washington, D.C. They sent home glossy flyers with pictures of the Capitol, museums, kids in matching shirts sitting on the steps of monuments. I shoved the flyer in front of my mom, breathless. "Everyone's going," I said. "It's a big deal. Museums, the White House, everything. Can I please go, please?" She skimmed the paper. The cost was printed in bold at the bottom, $750. Her eyes did that thing, the quiet panic math. "I'm sorry, baby," she said, handing it back. "We can't do that right now." "It's not right now," I argued. "It's in April. You have time." Her jaw tightened like I'd accused her of not trying hard enough. "I said we can't," she repeated. "We have other priorities." I knew what that meant. Rent, utilities, groceries, gas, and the envelope. I wanted to scream, "Use the envelope. Use the magic $50 fund. Use whatever you're building and let me go on the stupid trip like everyone else." Instead, I took the flyer to my room, shut the door, and cried into my pillow. That Friday night, I watched from the hallway as she put another 50 into the envelope like nothing had happened, like the universe was mocking me. Years later, I would find out that the same year I didn't go to DC, my mom bought a tiny, beat-up house in a part of town I'd never heard of. She didn't move into it. She didn't tell me about it. She rented it out. That little house, bought with years of cold nights, skipped trips, and $50 sacrifices, was the first brick in a quiet empire I knew nothing about. Back then, though, my reality was simple. We were poor, my mom had messed up priorities, and for some reason, that envelope mattered more than my childhood. I didn't know later was real. I didn't know later would outlive her. I didn't know that one day I'd be sitting in a leather chair in a wood-paneled office, clutching a stack of documents with her name on them, while a stranger told me my mother was not who I thought she was. All I knew then was this. Every week, $50 disappeared, and so did my patience. Teenagers in America are taught two things at the same time: follow your dreams and good luck affording them. By the time I started high school, both of those truths felt like a chokehold. Our apartment still looked the same sagging couch, same humming fridge, same flickering nail salon sign right outside the window. The only thing that changed was how sharply I could see the gaps between my life and everyone else's. They had iPhones before I even had a real phone. They got cars at 16. They went back to school shopping at Target and came home with bags full of new clothes. We went to thrift stores. My back-to-school smell was dust and someone else's laundry soap. I tried to shrug it off. We were on a budget. That's what my mom called it. Except every time I watched her take out $50 and feed that envelope, a different sentence started echoing in my head. We're not that broke. She has $50 a week for something. When I turned 16, I asked for exactly one thing. "I don't need a car," I told her. "I just want driver's ed. It's $300. Everyone says it's safer if you take the class." She was standing at the sink, hands buried in soapy water. "You can take it next year," she said. "You're still young." "I'm talking about this year," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You could help with it. You save way more than that every year." Her hands stopped moving. She shut off the faucet. Water dripped into the sink. "What did you just say?" she asked. "You heard me," I said, heart pounding. "You put away $50 every Friday. That's $200 a month, over $2,000 a year. You're doing that, but you can't help me with one class that could literally keep me safe?" She turned slowly, drying her hands. "You've been watching my money?" she asked, her voice low. "I live here," I said. "It's not exactly a secret." She looked hurt and defensive and tired. "That money is not for you to plan with," she said. "It's not for driver's ed, it's not for field trips, it's not for dresses. It's for later." Something snapped in me. "I am your later," I shot back. The words surprised even me, but once they were out, I couldn't pull them back. We stared at each other. "No," she said finally, her voice steady but her eyes glassy. "You are my right now, and right now I'm teaching you something." "Teaching me what?" I demanded. "How to be miserable?" Her jaw clenched. "Money you don't earn becomes a chain, not wings. If I hand you everything, you'll never leave, you'll never learn, you'll never trust yourself." I let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "I already can't wait to leave this apartment," I said. "Trust me, I'm motivated." Her face flinched, just a little. "You will," she said softly. "You'll get out, you'll earn it." Then she turned back to the sink. Conversation over. Lesson taught. I got a job at a grocery store, hauling carts and bagging groceries, eventually working my way up to cashier. Friday nights, when my friends were at football games and parties, I was asking strangers, paper or plastic. You learn a lot from behind a register. Who counts every coupon? Who doesn't look at prices? Who swipes their card and winces? Who swipes and doesn't even check? Sometimes my mom came through my line. She'd buy the same staples: rice, beans, eggs, frozen vegetables, chicken if it was on sale. Then, at the end, she'd say, "Can I get 50 cash back, please?" 50, always 50. "Big plans," I'd ask, trying to sound casual. "Just being responsible," she'd say. We both knew exactly where that money was going. We both pretended it wasn't weird. Senior year, everything became about college. My guidance counselor's office was covered in pennants from universities I'd only seen on TV. "You have the grades," she said, tapping my transcript. "You should be applying to at least a few four-year schools." "I can't afford that," I said immediately. "There's financial aid," she said. "Grants, scholarships, loans." "Loans," I repeated. "We can meet with your mom," she offered. "Walk through FAFSA, look at your options. You'd qualify for a lot of need-based aid." Need-based. We were a walking definition of need. I brought home the brochures. Shiny pictures of campuses and smiling students and promises of opportunity. That night, I spread them across the kitchen table. "Look," I said, "there's a state university that might give me a scholarship. Then, with grants and loans, I could make it work. The counselor said we can do this." My mom's face tightened at the word loans. "I don't like debt," she said. "Yeah, well, I don't like being stuck," I said. "This is how people do it, Mom. People take loans. I can't just walk into college with cash." She stared at one of the brochures without really seeing it. "Why don't you start at community college?" she said. "It's cheaper. You can live at home, work part-time. We'll figure out the rest later." There it was again. Later. "You're not going to help me," I said quietly. "Aren't you?" Her shoulders sagged, just a little. "I have helped you," she said. "I raised you. I kept the lights on. Not that," I cut in. "I mean with money, with college, with your later money." She winced at the phrase. "That money is locked," she said. "It has a job. It's already promised." "To who?" I asked. "Because it sure isn't promised to me." She looked away. "You'll understand one day," she murmured. "I'm building something that can't be undone once it's there. I can't break it early, not even for you." Those 4 words dug into me. Not even for you. I went to my room, closed the door, and filled out my FAFSA alone. I did what everyone else did. I started at community college. I took out loans. I tutored. I took extra shifts. I drove a beat-up car I bought in cash after a year of saving. My mom helped me move into my first dorm when I transferred to a state university 2 hours away. She carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs, made my bed, tucked the corners just like when I was little. Before she left, she pressed an envelope into my hand. "Emergency money," she said, and I mean real emergencies, not pizza, not concerts. Inside was $200. It felt like everything and not nearly enough at the same time. "Thanks," I said, my voice stiff. "You're angry with me," she said quietly. "I'm just tired," I said. "You're the one who told me money I don't earn, remember?" Her face crumpled for half a second, then she smoothed it out. "One day," she said, "you'll see what I was doing, and you'll know it was for you." I almost said, "Then why does it feel like it's against me?" But I didn't. I just nodded as she walked down the hall, her shoulders a little more hunched than I remembered. Somewhere between that dorm room and graduation, my mom turned her steady river of $50 bills into more than one house. She turned it into a pattern, a system, an entire second life on paper. She became a landlord, an investor, a woman with mortgages, tenants, and spreadsheets. And somehow, her own daughter was the last one to know. College is already complicated when you're just juggling classes, friends, and figuring out who you are. Add money stress on top, and every decision feels like a transaction. Do I buy this textbook or try to share? Do I go out tonight or save that 20 for gas? Do I go home this weekend or stay and work an extra shift? I lived in a constant state of mental math, just like my mom, but with far less control. Meanwhile, every time we talked, she sounded steady. "Are you eating? Are you sleeping? You're not letting your credit card sit with a balance, right?" I wanted to snap. Easy for you to talk about responsible when you have that envelope. But there was this heavy wall between us now, built from unspoken resentment and secrets I didn't know she was trying to protect me from. The first crack in that wall came by accident. I came home one weekend junior year because I needed some paperwork. When I opened the apartment door, something felt off. It was still small, still old, still ours, but there were changes. The curtains were nicer. There was a newer microwave. The couch looked decent. Not fancy, just less defeated. Mom was sitting at the table with a laptop that definitely wasn't the ancient one I'd watched her curse at for years. As soon as she saw me, she snapped it shut. "You got a new computer," I said. She shrugged. "The old one died. I needed this." "With what money?" I wanted to ask. Instead, I said, "Looks nice." We ate grilled cheese at the table like when I was a kid. She asked about school, about work, about my car. I watched her face. There was something different in it, a kind of quiet calm I didn't recognize. When I got up to grab a napkin, my elbow knocked a stack of mail onto the floor. "Sorry," I said, bending down to pick it up. At the top of the pile was an envelope from a company I didn't recognize. A logo, a return address. The window showed my mom's name, and underneath, "Statement for rental income, property number 3. I froze. "Property 3? I said out loud before I could stop myself. "As in, number 3? She was beside me in an instant, snatching the envelope from my hand. "It's nothing," she said quickly, "just paperwork." "Property 3, I repeated. "Property like real estate? As in 1, 2, 3 properties?" She hesitated. Her shoulders dropped a fraction of an inch. "I told you," she said quietly. "I was building something." "What?" I demanded. "A Monopoly board?" I tried to laugh. She didn't. She sat back down, the envelope in her hands, turning it over and over like a nervous habit. For a second, I thought she would finally tell me everything. Instead, she said, "This has nothing to do with your college money. Those are separate things." I stared at her, heat rising in my chest. "How can you say that?" I asked. "You're getting rental income, and you watched me sign loan papers. You watched me cry over bills. You heard me ask you for help, and you never thought, hey, maybe I can help my kid just a little?" Her face hardened. "I helped you by not letting you depend on something that can disappear," she shot back. "Real estate isn't magic. Tenants move, roofs leak, markets crash." "If something happens to you," I said, my voice breaking, "do you think that's going to hurt less knowing you had all this and I still lived off ramen?" She looked gutted. "I am doing the best I can with what I know," she said, her voice shaking now. "I grew up with nothing. No safety net, no help, no inheritance. I promised myself my kid would have more. More what? I snapped. More confusion? More debt? More speeches about earning everything while you save for strangers? Those people aren't strangers, she whispered. They're families. They're people like us. Yeah, except we're the ones still broke, I said. For a moment, I thought she might yell. Instead, she sagged in her chair like someone let the air out. One day, she said softly, these places will mean something to you. They'll protect you. They'll be there when I'm not. But I will not let you sit around waiting for a check from your mother. There it was, the line that burned. I don't want a check, I said, tears welling. I want a mom who trusts me not to waste it. Silence stretched between us. Two women who loved each other and could not, for the life of them, speak the same language. After that, I started noticing little clues. Comments like, the plumber at the other place is coming tomorrow, or the family in the small house had a baby, or the roof on the duplex needs work. She never called them my properties, always the place. Like if she kept it vague, maybe it wouldn't sound like wealth. It would just sound like responsibility. I began to realize my mom wasn't rich, not yacht rich, not mansion rich, but she wasn't the broke waitress I'd always believed she was either. She was something else. Part of me was proud. A single mom scraping by on tips and turning $50 bills into multiple properties? That was incredible. But pride kept slamming into resentment. Pride, look what she built. Resentment, look what she didn't do for you. Senior year of college, everything hit at once. My roommate moved out mid-semester and I had to cover more rent. My car needed a repair I could barely afford. I maxed my credit card for the first time and stared at the balance like it was a verdict. I called my mom, pacing the tiny room, voice shaking. Is there any way, I asked, you could loan me some money? Not give, loan. I'll pay you back. I just need to get through the semester. The pause on the other end was so long, I pulled my phone away to check if the call had dropped. I, I, I don't like mixing money and family, she said finally. I laughed, but it came out harsh and ugly. You mean you don't like helping me, I said. You've made that really clear. That's not fair, she said sharply. I have supported you. I raised you. No, I cut in. You supported your properties. You raised an investment portfolio. I got work hard and you'll understand later. We argued in circles. I cried. She went quiet in that way that meant she was done. After we hung up, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking, if she died tomorrow, what would happen to all those places? Would they vanish? Would some lawyer show up and say, surprise, your mom was worth more than you thought? It felt like a fantasy. I had no idea how close I actually was to living it. The call came on a Tuesday. It was an ordinary day. Bad coffee, crowded bus, half-finished assignment. I was in the library pretending to study when my phone buzzed. Mom lit up on the screen. For a second, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Our relationship felt fragile. Every conversation risked turning into an argument about money and choices and later. But something in my chest said, pick up. Hey, I answered. Hey, baby. Her voice sounded thinner, smaller. You busy? Always, I tried to joke. What's up? She took a breath. You remember that doctor's appointment I told you about? The tests? My stomach dropped. Yeah, I said. What did they say? There was a pause long enough for my heart to start pounding. They found something, she said. She didn't say the word. She didn't have to. Cancer hangs there in the unspoken space. You feel it before anyone says it. They think it's early, she rushed to add. They want to run more tests, but they said the word. My eyes filled with tears. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll come home this weekend. We'll go through everything together. You're not doing this alone." "I don't want you missing class," she protested automatically. "Screw class," I said. "You're my mom." She let out a shaky laugh. "You always were stubborn," she said. The next few months were hospital corridors, disinfectant smells, uncomfortable chairs, and clipboards. So many forms. Consent forms, insurance forms, treatment plans. I watched my mother, who could juggle tenants and mortgages and late-night bookkeeping, shrank into a hospital gown that never tied right in the back. She still tried to make jokes. She still asked me if I was eating enough. But behind her eyes, I saw a new kind of math. Not bills math, not savings math, time math. How many treatments? How many good days? How many conversations left? One night, I walked into her room and found her sitting up in bed, typing slowly on her laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Making a list," she said. "Of what?" "Things I have to put in order," she said. "The properties, the accounts, the everything." I shook my head. "You don't have to worry about that right now," I said. "Just focus on getting better." She gave me a tired, knowing look. "That's not how this works," she said. "You don't wait for the storm to nail the boards over the windows." I sat down in the chair beside her. "Mom," I asked quietly, "if something happens to you, what happens to all of it? The places, the money, the envelope that turned into whatever this is?" She watched me for a long moment. "That's what I'm figuring out," she said. "I talked to a lawyer. I won't be here forever. I don't want you walking into a mess." My throat tightened. "We're already kind of a mess," I said, trying to smile. She smiled back, then winced. "Promise me something," she said. "Anything. When the lawyer calls you, because he will, listen to him, read everything, ask questions. Don't just sign stuff because it's easier." It felt like a fist around my heart. "Can we not talk like you're already gone?" I said, my voice cracking. She reached for my hand. "I have spent your whole life preparing for later," she said softly. "This is later. I don't want you walking into it blind." I wanted to yell that I'd been blind my whole life, that she was the one who kept all the lights off when it came to our money. But I looked at the IV line in her arm, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands shook, and the anger just sat there, heavy, without a place to go. The treatments didn't work the way we hoped. There were good days where we made dark jokes and watched bad TV and pretended nothing was wrong. Then there were fewer good days. Then there were days where everything hurt, and even talking felt like too much. She spent more time on that laptop, even from the hospital bed. I'd catch glimpses of words on the screen. Trust, executor, beneficiary. Words that felt cold and distant and very, very real. One afternoon, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Come here," she said. "I need to say this while I still can without sounding like a frog." I dragged the chair closer and sat. "I know you're mad at me," she said, "about the money, about school, about all the times I said no when it felt like I should have said yes." Tears stung my eyes. "It doesn't matter now," I said. "I just want you." "It does matter," she insisted, "because I need you to know this. I never did it to punish you. I did it because I was scared. I didn't know any other way to make sure you'd be okay." I swallowed hard. "Couldn't you have helped a little and still taught me to be strong?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Maybe," she said. "Probably. But no one taught me that balance. I was guessing. I got some of it wrong." We sat there, holding hands, in the beeping, humming quiet. I wish I could say we fixed everything. We didn't. We just understood each other a little more. She died on a rainy Thursday. People say the weather doesn't care, but somehow the sky always seems to know. The hospital called. I drove in a daze. I held her hand after she was already gone, hoping some part of her could still feel me. The funeral was casseroles, hugs that lasted too long, and sentences that started with, "She was such a hard worker," and "She loved you so much." I nodded, smiled, floated. A week later, my phone rang. "Is this Jordan?" a man asked. "Yes. This is Daniel Harper. I was your mother's attorney. In her will, she requested that I meet with you to go over some important matters." Important matters. The phrase felt like code for your life is about to change. I had no idea just how much. His office looked like every lawyer's office looks in movies. Dark wood, bookshelves, leather chairs, everything quiet and expensive. I sat across from him, clutching my bag in my lap, my mom's death certificate tucked inside, my student loan app still logged in on my phone. I expected, I don't know, a small life insurance policy, instructions about the apartment, maybe, if I let myself hope, a little bit of savings from that envelope. He slid a thick folder across the desk. "This," he said gently, "is what your mother built." I opened it. There were addresses, 4 of them, a single-family home, a small duplex, a 3-unit building, a tiny condo near a community college. Each had numbers next to it: purchase price, estimated value, remaining mortgage. Notes about long-term tenants, fully paid off, needs exterior work. Then, on the back, a summary: total estimated net worth. The number made my stomach flip. "We were poor," I said, my voice barely there. "We were always struggling. How is this possible?" "Your mother was very disciplined," he said. "She started small. She used savings as down payments, lived below her means, handled repairs herself for years. When the income grew, she scaled slowly. She was cautious." I thought of canned soup dinners, thrift store clothes, the Washington trip I never took. All the times she said, "We can't afford that," while silently affording this. "So what happens now?" I asked. "What does this mean for me?" He flipped to another section. "This," he said, tapping a page, "is where your mother was very specific." The heading read, "Conditions of Inheritance." My chest tightened. Of course there were conditions. Of course. It began with her words. "To my daughter, Jordan, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to argue with you in person, so I have to do it on paper." I let out a broken laugh. "She sounds like herself," I whispered. "You know I never believed in giving you money you didn't earn. I still don't. What I'm leaving you is not a pile of cash. It is a foundation, a machine I built from nothing but $50 bills and stubbornness. I am leaving you my properties, all of them." I looked up, shocked. "All of them?" I asked. He nodded. "All of them. Keep reading. You will not be allowed to sell any of the properties for at least 5 years from the date of my death. During those 5 years, you must learn how they work. You can hire help, but you must be involved. You must understand what you own. The rental income will be yours to live on, to pay your bills, to build your own savings, but the bricks and land stay put. 5 years. It felt both short and eternal. If, after 5 years, you still want to sell, you may. I will already be dead, so I won't have to watch you do something that would break my heart." I could almost hear her voice laughing as she wrote that. "But my hope is that by then, you will see what I see, that security is worth more than quick cash, and that being the woman who owns the building is different from being the woman who pays rent in it. I know you are angry with me. I know you felt abandoned when I did not help you the way you wanted. For that, I am sorry. I never meant for you to feel unloved. I did this because I had no one, no backup plan, no inheritance. I wanted you to have the thing I never had, something solid under your feet." Tears ran down my face and dripped onto the paper. "Here is the part you will probably hate," the letter went on. "Before you can receive legal control of these properties, you must do one thing. You must pay off your student loans yourself, completely. Not with the rental income, not by taking a loan against the properties, with your own work. When you have done that, the properties will be signed over to you fully. Until then, they will be held in a trust in your name, managed according to my instructions. I know this sounds cruel. It is not. It is faith. I believe you are capable of standing on your own 2 feet and still inheriting something lasting. You will hate me for this, maybe for a long time. But if you do this, if you climb out of that debt with your own hands, the girl who got her degree with loans on her back will not be the same woman who takes over an empire built from $50 bills. She'll be stronger, and she'll be ready. I love you more than you will ever know. Mom. I dropped the letter onto the desk, my hands shaking. She wants me to pay off my loans before I can own any of this? I said. Is that even legal? Yes, he said softly. She set up a trust. The properties will be managed. You'll receive a modest monthly stipend from the rental income, but the bulk goes to maintenance, taxes, reserves. You'll be okay. Not rich, not yet, but okay. I could wipe out my loans with one of these places, I said. She could have done it years ago. He hesitated. May I speak not just as your attorney, but as someone who has watched many families go through this? He asked. I nodded, exhausted. Most people either leave money with no direction and it gets wasted, or they micromanage and create resentment. Your mother tried something different. She trusted the person you could become more than she trusted your circumstances. His words settled over me like a heavy blanket. I walked out of that office with a binder full of documents and a storm inside my chest. My mom had been poor with me and rich on my behalf. She built something for me and then made me do the hardest part. You'd think finding out you technically inherited 4 properties would change your life overnight. It didn't. When I woke up the next morning, my student loans still existed. My rent was still due. My car still made that weird noise. The only new thing was this. Somewhere in my city stood buildings with my mother's name on the deed, waiting for the day mine would replace it. I started meeting with the property manager she'd been working with. I toured the units, met tenants. They said things like, "Your mom was so kind. She never jacked the rent just because she could. When the heat broke, she had someone here the same day." I walked through hallways my mom had painted, looked at faucets she'd picked out on sale, saw the playground she'd insisted be fixed so kids could have decent swings. It was like walking through a museum of her values. Every $50 bill had turned into something physical: a front door, a roof, a mailbox with a number. Families were eating dinner in places my mother owned. For the first time in my life, I saw what she meant by building something. The monthly stipend from the trust started coming in, just like the lawyer said. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough that, if I was careful, I could breathe a little. I thought about using it to attack my student loans, just to speed things up, but I kept hearing her voice. Not with the rental income. She'd been very specific, and if there was one thing I'd learned, it was that she meant what she said. So I made a decision. I got a better job. I moved into a cheaper apartment closer to work. I cut every expense I could. And I went to war with my student loans. Every extra dollar went to them. Tax refunds, birthday money, side gigs, weekends I didn't go out. There were nights I sat on the floor with my laptop and cried over a stupid payment confirmation screen. Not because of the money leaving, but because of the weight slowly, finally coming off. There were also nights I was furious with her all over again. Why did I have to do this the hard way when she'd already done the impossible? But slowly, something shifted. The more the balance dropped, the less I felt like a victim of my circumstances, and the more I felt like a partner to my own future. Years passed. In between loan payments, I kept learning. I read books she never had time to read. I watched videos about real estate and money. I sat in on meetings with the property manager and started asking questions. What's the vacancy rate? What do repairs usually cost each year? What's cash flow after everything's paid? The girl who once hated an envelope had turned into a woman who checked rental income spreadsheets with her morning coffee. One day, I logged in and saw it. Student loan balance, $0. I stared at the screen, hand over my mouth, and started to sob. No confetti, no applause, just me, my phone, and a number that finally said I was free. I drove to one of the properties, the little single-family house my mom had bought first, the one that started it all. I stood on the cracked sidewalk and looked at the faded paint, the small porch, the curtains in the windows. "This is mine," I whispered. "I didn't earn you, but I earned the version of me who can take care of you." The legal transfer took a few more months. Paperwork, signatures, title changes. Then, one ordinary Thursday, my phone rang again. "Congratulations," Mr. Harper said. "It's official. You're now the owner of all 4 properties." All 4. The girl who grew up above a nail salon now owned 4 buildings. I didn't feel rich. I felt responsible. Sometimes, late at night, I open the box where I keep my mom's letter. I read the part where she admits I'll probably hate her for what she did. I read the part where she says it's not cruelty, it's faith. I read the part where she calls what she built an empire, and I smile because now I finally understand. Empires don't start big. They start with one decision repeated 1,000 times. $50, $50, $50. While you're tired, while your kid is mad at you, while no one claps, no one notices, and nothing looks different. Do I wish she'd helped me more with driver's ed, with that DC trip, with my first semester tuition? Yeah, I still wish I'd had some of that softness, some of those easier days. But I also understand her better now. She wasn't saving instead of loving me. She was loving me in a language I didn't yet speak. I didn't earn the properties. I didn't work those double shifts at the diner. I didn't deal with tenants calling at midnight about broken heaters. But I did earn the woman who could carry it all forward. The woman who knows now that money you don't earn can feel like a chain. Money you painfully, stubbornly earn feels like wings. And sometimes the people who say no to you are actually saying yes to your future. Her gift was messy. It came wrapped in resentment, confusion, and years of feeling left out. It was a gift I spent most of my life feeling like I didn't deserve. Now, I don't just feel like I deserve it. I feel responsible to grow it. For her, for me, for whoever comes after me. If you stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. And if you've ever looked at your parents and thought, why didn't you help me more? Why did you let me struggle? Just remember, sometimes the answer is buried under years of sacrifice you never saw. If you want more real stories like this about money, family, secrets, and the kind of love that doesn't always feel like love, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who grew up thinking their family was broke, when really, someone might have been quietly building later the whole time. Because later comes for all of us. And sometimes it brings the truth with it.